Okay, I'm doing a quick video breakdown on this particular video. Now, I don't know all the details about this video. This is not a political video. It has nothing to do with the actions of the police officers or the use of force. Um, Nothing like that. This is strictly looking at the video from the perspective of a dog trainer, somebody who's been doing protection work for a long time now in different settings. So here we have the person, the suspect, whatever you want to call it, taunting the dog, being kind of a hassle here. Now, when the dog does engage, the guy was walking away again. This is not to break down the actions of the police officer, but to look at the dog. Here's what I want you to look at. Okay, look at the behavior of this police dog. This is very unfortunate. It's a really poor representation of what a police dog should do. Uh, you see the dog just grabbing the pants, pulling, really not doing any damage, which maybe in this particular case, in this particular context, that was okay, that was acceptable. But if you take the daylight out of this scenario, if you take all the spectators out of the scenario, and you take all of the police officers out of this scenario, you're now left with a dog with a very poor performance, okay, and a potentially very, very dangerous scenario for the police officer, for the canine handler. Put this or a different suspect, more dangerous suspect, less than ideal conditions, nighttime, not broad daylight with a lot of witnesses, but now this is a potentially very dangerous suspect, and you have a police dog that has a super shallow grip, is pulling, and is more excited about the equipment, the pants, than he is about the man work, with than he is about actually gripping and having the guy's leg in its mouth. That is very, very dangerous. If I'm a bad guy and I mean, and I'm here to hurt you potentially, and I mean harm to you in whatever scenario that we find ourselves in, and I am very dangerous, and you send your dog on me, and your dog just grabs my pants, just like this dog is, and it's just pulling on my pants. I could easily grab my weapon, whatever that weapon might be. I could injure your dog, and shortly after that, I can injure you. Okay? This is very unreliable, and it's not what we want. Pulling grips like this are not good. I want the dog to push into the bite. I want the dog to not want just the pants. I want the dog to go into the bite and grab the leg. That's what we want, because otherwise it's a very, very tricky and very dangerous spot to be in. If your dog doesn't disable me and I'm the threat, and your dog doesn't disable me, I'm not going to disable your dog. So unfortunately, a lot of police officers are not aware of this. A lot of canine handlers are not aware of this. They don't understand grip and behavior. So this ends up happening and people don't see it. What I want to see is, I want to see something like this. I want the dog to go into the bite, push into the bite, fill its entire mouth, with the bite. I want the dog to not be satisfied with just the equipment. I want the dog to feel your leg. I want the dog to feel your arm. I want the dog to actually feel you, not just the equipment. This does come through. This does happen with training. This can be achieved through proper training. Genetics are a big factor too, but this is how I want the dog to do this, and this is how we're training our dogs to do it. Now, I'm not training police dogs in these particular videos. I am doing sport work. I have worked with police dogs. I have trained police dogs. In these particular clips right here, we're doing sport work, but the principles are the same. I want full pushing grips. I don't want pulling shallow grips. Now, there are ways to encourage and to teach a nice push grip. This does require knowledge and skill, however. And unfortunately, it's knowledge and skill that your average dog handler doesn't have. Your average police dog trainer or department head of canine in a police department does not have. This is usually specialized knowledge that somebody who specializes in this, has worked on this for a good period of time, will have. But your average, just in general, your average canine handler is not aware of that. Your average canine department head or canine department trainer in an agency or a law enforcement agency does not have. But if you look at this picture right here and looking at the previous videos, you'll see that there is push and grip. There is full grip. This is how we want it. In this picture alone right here, you can see this dog's mouth. The entire mouth is wrapped around the sleeve. Right, the sleeve is obviously equipment that we are using to train that. There are trainers out there that are very, very adamant about pointing out, well, police dog, we don't work with equipment. We don't want the dog to be oriented on equipment. However, by looking at the earlier video, it was all about equipment, and it was just a really, really crappy bite. So equipment is going to be there. It's going to be part of the training. So you might as well learn how to use the equipment and accept the fact that you are going to need equipment. You're not going to teach a full grip on a on a live sleeve or on a live scenario where the dog is biting somebody's leg or biting somebody's arm. You need to use equipment to help you out with that. So this is kind of what we want right here, right? And this is a motivational exercise. You teach the dog to give you a full grip by manipulating the sleeve, working with the dog, manipulating the game so that it's more rewarding for the dog when it's pushing into the bite rather than pulling or thrashing. Now, pulling, thrashing, and pushing, these can be unique preferred styles that each dog has. Some dogs naturally are thrashers. Naturally, they want to grab the sleeve or the toy and shake it and thrash it. It comes natural to them, is something they feel very comfortable with. Some dogs prefer to pull, and some dogs prefer to, push into it. These are the type of dogs that usually want to swallow the toy. I want to eat the toy. Typically, this would be the type of dogs that would prefer to push into the grip. But with any of these dogs, we can encourage them to push. Genetic is a huge factor. There are dogs that no matter how much you try, they're just not going to push into the bite. It's just not the right type of dog. Typically, that's an indication that this is not the right type of dog. However, if you have the proper selection in place and the proper knowledge and skill set in place, you can teach most dogs to give you a fairly decent push, or in a fairly decent full bite, full grip. But again, going back to the knowledge that somebody who specializes in that versus the knowledge of your average canine handler. Okay? There are obviously some police dog trainers that do know their stuff, that do know their craft, that they do know how to teach and encourage a proper grip. But they're far in between, not many of those people out there. So this video was not meant to criticize canine handlers in general, or to say that police dogs in general are terrible. It's just to really point out a very common phenomenon, and that is that your average canine handler doesn't understand grip, and it's not their fault. I mean, it's not their job to learn how to do that. And unfortunately, your average police dog doesn't always have the best technique, right? In sports, we really focus on that because it is part of the reason we do the sport, to get the most amount of points. But that's really what the video was about, just to show you the difference between improper bite and properly executed bytes, and obviously in a training scenario. If you like this video, make sure you like and subscribe.